And so I'd like to just open it up right now and see what questions you have of me. This is your chance to hear what a supervisor's perspective is. Yes. Hi.
Hi, I'm Linda Susan.
Hi, Linda.
In the application process, it sounds not dissimilar to the seminary application process. It's always, I'm never quite sure what's expected or not in terms of disclosing stuff from one's personal history.
Yeah.
And I tend to be a person who is more likely to disclose than not, so getting your perspective on
yeah, that's a great question, because as an applicant for CPE, you're in an awkward position. You're being asked to reveal lots and lots about yourself to somebody you don't really know, and that can feel very awkward. I think a good guide would be to say, okay, well, what am I comfortable saying that I would be okay about talking about more in an interview? So I don't have to put all of the details of an event that happened for me in my life necessarily. I can allude to something and basically say, I'm open to talking about this more if you would like. Now, what I would say is that if there are certain events in your life that are truly formative, that you feel like, okay, this really shaped me, this really put me on this path, you probably ought to talk about them. Important people in your life, probably ought to talk about them. Let me give you a secret. One of the big things that CPE supervisors look for is information about the family of origin of an applicant. So talk about your parents or step-parents or whoever served as your parental caregivers. Talk about your siblings, both how you related to them in the past and what your current relationship is with them now if they're still alive. So you want to give the supervisor a sense of how you see yourself situated within your family of origin, because most of us got trained in family systems theory, where we think about, okay, the person's position in the family reveals something about how that person's going to function in the world. So if you give us information about like that, that really helps us in terms of assessing how open you are and how much you know about yourself already. CPE supervisors tend to like applicants who seem pretty self-aware, because that means we have to do less work in inviting you to reflect. In case you didn't know it, CPE supervisors are pretty lazy. So the less work we have to do, the better off we feel. So anyway, but that is a very fair question. And I would say, don't feel like you have to write the tell-all memoir of your life. But if there are certain events that you feel like, okay, I really can't tell my life story without talking about this, then you can write a few sentences and say, I'm open to talking more about this if you wish. That way you're giving me as a reader a signal that, oh, okay, well, she's open to discussing this if it's important, and maybe we will talk about it a little bit. Yeah, you're welcome. Yes?
Is that the 8 to 10 pages long part?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The whole application, please don't send a 40-page application to a CPE supervisor. We don't have time to read all of that. And I know that your lives are interesting. Everyone's life is interesting, but my schedule's pretty tight. And if I'm getting 40, 50 applications, 8 to 10 pages is about all I can read. So that's a good sort of target to shoot for. If you find yourself coming in a lot under that, then you might want to think about, okay, what have I left out? Maybe there's something I should really write more about. If you're really going over, then think about how you could trim. Maybe I don't really need to know about your third grade English teacher, or something like that. But unless that person was extremely important to you, and was, anyway, so I won't get into specifics. Yes?
Okay, I want to do my CPE in Washington, D.C. For a couple of reasons. One, mainly, I can sublet my apartment here, and I have a friend there that I can stay with, so that will cut down on expenses.
Nice.
And I went on the ACP site.
Yes.
And Walter Reed is there,
Yes.
which I'm very interested in. But there were also I think there were 5 sites. And one was a clinic, and I think the rest were hospitals.
Affiliated with Walter Reed?
No, with the ACPE.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there were 5 sites in Washington, D.C.
Okay, yeah.
For me to apply to any of those, is there things that I need to know from here that I can do? And if there's going to be an interview, do I have to fly out there?
That's a great question. First of all, let me say that Walter Reed probably is closing because the campus is closing. So I don't know where they're going to be. Plus, Army and Air Force CPE centers tend to be for military personnel only, or VA chaplains.
Okay.
So you may not be able to do that.
That's okay.
However, places like the Palo Alto VA, Hampton Roads VA in Virginia, they are an open CPE program in that they will take applicants who are not military chaplains, not VA chaplains. So you could still work with veterans if that's an interest of yours.
That's an interest. It's not a high interest.
Okay.
It's mainly I want to be in. I don't know why. I want to be in that area. I want to be in Washington.
Okay.
DC.
Good. So on that note, then what you would do is, or what I would advise you to do, is to get in touch with the supervisors at those centers,
Okay.
and say, I'm interested in applying to your CPE program for the summer. It's okay to contact them now.
Okay.
Washington, D.C., San Francisco, L.A., New York, they all tend to fill up sooner than Topeka, Kansas.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with Topeka, but the coastal cities tend to get more applications. So you might want to contact them now and say, I am interested in a summer program. Are you offering a summer program? If so, what are the dates? I have my application ready. Do you have a fee that you charge? Do you need me to do an in-person interview, or is a proxy interview sufficient? Now, proxy interview, what that means is that you would be paying a CPE supervisor here to do an interview and then send that report to the CPE center in Washington, D.C.
But from what you told me, that's not. How do we know if it'll be a good fit?
Well, see, what would happen then is the CPE supervisor would get, let's say I did your proxy interview. I write up a report, I give you a copy, I send a copy to the CPE supervisor in Washington, whoever you tell me to send it to. That CPE supervisor reads my report and says, man, this guy's a great supervisor. No, what he says is, or she says is, oh, okay, yeah, this person looks like might be a good candidate for me. So then the supervisor would call you and say, let's set up a phone interview, and I'll do a second interview with you based on what I've gotten from Peter already.
Okay.
So the proxy interview serves as like an additional introduction by somebody who knows CPE and can kind of give a read
Okay.
as to what I think some of the things you would probably want to work on are. And then that gives that supervisor some clues about, oh, okay, well, she might be pretty good, so I might want to talk to her.
Okay.
But the supervisor would also have a copy of your materials and would be reading through those as well. So
Okay.
I'd be giving additional information. Proxy interviews can be done for out-of-state applicants. Now, not all centers will accept that. Some centers will insist on meeting you in person.
Okay.
So you would want to clarify that with the center. There's nothing in the ACPE standards that requires a center to accept a proxy interview. Each center can make up its own mind about how they want to deal with out-of-state applicants.
Okay.
But proxy interviews are done. Usually around GTU Day, we try to get a list together of local supervisors who are willing to do the proxy interviews and how much we charge.
Okay.
So we'll try to do that again this